All right. How's it going, everybody? Listen, I wanted to first and foremost address a pressing question or problem that I'm sure you're all dealing with. It's probably been bothering you all morning. This is actually moving. It's not that you drank too much last night or out too late at the bar. They're moving. Everyone else sees that just like you do. You got one panel break from AI, I think, or one session break. We're going to go right back into it. And we're going to talk about building AI agents intentionally. I'll get to what I mean by that in 1 second. First, I want to walk you through what we're going to do. I'm going to talk a little bit about who is Bluecore, who am I? It's going to be very fast. We're going to talk about why we decided to intentionally build a marketing agent. We're going to talk specifically about the data that makes that work, which, as I think we all know, is fundamental to agents mattering to all of us. And then I'm going to invite a guest on stage to walk through some real-life use cases of how the marketing agent is helping marketers right now as we speak do their job. So buckle up. That's what you're in for. Me, Ryan Deutsch, Chief Customer Officer of Bluecore. I've been doing digital marketing since the late 90s, which means I'm old or wise. It depends who you ask. My wife would say old. The people I work with would say wise. You guys can judge when we're done with this. Bluecore focuses on helping retail brands, only retail brands. We only work with retailers, create personalized experiences across every shopping touch point. We work with about 400 companies in the US and globally, and the company has been around for a little over a decade. So that's Bluecore. I think it was in September of last year, Bluecore got about 30 brands together in New York, and we had a jam sesh. Any musicians in the audience? Show of hands. Anybody play? All right. I am not a musician, but our chief product officer is. So we called this a jam session, and we brought customers together to talk about if Bluecore was going to build something that mattered to them, what would we build? What matters? And the group, I think we broke the 30 customers into 7 different teams, and 3 of the 7 teams came up with the same request. We want something that helps us stop looking backwards. As digital marketers, we feel like we come into the office every day, and too much of our time is spent trying to answer what happened in the past versus taking action in the future. In fact, we did a survey, and we have this rough assessment that says about 80% of our time as digital marketers is spent finding answers or looking backwards in the rearview mirror versus taking action on the data that we understand. So we thought to ourselves, is that something that we can help with at Bluecore? And from our perspective, any platform that's building agents to help prevent us from looking backwards and allow us to look forward and take action needs to have 3 things. And those 3 things all revolve around specific types of context or data. So thing number 1 requires customer context. Who's Ryan? What's Ryan's LTV? Do we understand all of the different things that makes Ryan tick as a human being and a shopper? Number 2, real-time behavioral data. What the heck is Ryan doing? Not what did Ryan do last week or last month, but what is Ryan doing right now? What signals are we able to capture in real time to understand what Ryan's up to? And number 3, catalog awareness. So not just awareness of the customer, not just awareness of the customer's activities and behaviors, but what inside of the retail catalog matters to that shopper. What's changing in price? What's changing in colorways? What new arrivals are happening? The combination of these 3 things, along with all of the other data that we all look at in our business on a daily basis, allows us to create an agent that can provide insights that are highly valuable to our teams and allow us to spend less time looking backwards and more time taking action. So fast forward to today, we just launched in controlled availability what we're calling the first phase of Bluecore AI, which is Bluecore's marketing agent, which is a prompt-based tool that, from my perspective, serves 2 roles that we're used to in our companies today. One is an analyst, and we'll talk a minute about how it shows up from an analyst use case perspective. and the other is an operator. So not just what is happening, or how do you pull data together to understand what's happening, but how do we make recommendations, or is how the agent able to make recommendations so that you can go take action, or your team can go take action. So to recap quickly, we asked 30 customers, what is it that you want to do less? The answer was we want to spend less time looking backwards. Okay, great. What do we need to enable that? We need access to shopper context. We need access to real-time behavioral data. We need access to catalog and catalog awareness, and we can go build something that's really exciting. So to talk about how that shows up and how that gets used, I was going to invite Andy Rickard from QVC. I was just in New York, and I saw Book of Mormon. If you haven't seen it, go see it. But I figured when Andy got snowed in Manhattan and couldn't make it today, I had to do him the good service of showing an actual understudy card. So you are not getting Andy today. The role of keynote presenter today will instead be played by a good friend of ours, Jordan Bowery. So he signed up for this yesterday at the last minute. I want to tell you he's an upgrade, but I don't want to offend Andy, who's also completely awesome. But put your hands together and let's invite Jordan out here, who's going to help us talk about how we use agents intentionally. Come on, it's Jordan. He found out about this yesterday.
Thanks, Ryan.
What's up, man? How are you, Jordan?
Yeah, doing well.
Jordan, thanks again for doing this. I know no one likes to be the understudy. I wish I could tell you that you were actually our first choice.
Well,
you weren't, Andy was, but we're glad you're here.
I'll take it. You know.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
Kidding. Okay, so Jordan, maybe we could start with a little bit about yourself. Maybe give the group some background of,
sure.
Why it's worth listening to what you think about intentional AI agents.
I don't know if I can answer that, but so I'm Jordan. I am the well, as of last week, I was the Senior Director of Retention Marketing and Global CRM at Michael Kors. Just left for a new opportunity, but really excited to talk about AI and Bluecore today. For me, AI is, maybe it's a hot take, both overhyped and underhyped. I think it's very overly spoken about, but underutilized within brands and retailers. I think for me, AI, the way I've treated AI in my journey with it is around using it to think further than I ever could, rather than using it to think for me. And I think with agents, what it really helps us then do is automate the things that really marketers don't want to be doing, right? Like we don't want to be doing all the manual stuff. So AI agents really play into that. And I think what we've got today is 3 examples of how we can use the analyst agent to really automate a lot of the situations that we're all familiar with on like a weekly basis. So
yeah, things that are frustrating for all of us in our daily lives. So Jordan, you go first. What use case do you want to tackle first?
I think the first one is a situation we've all been in, right? Monday morning, you've got to do a trade report, weekly business report, whatever you want to call it. And we've all been there, right? Rather than having my team spending hours, sometimes days, pulling data together in a way that formatting a deck or a sheet, etc., having this AI agent pull the data gives us back the gift of time, right? And with that time, we're able to start thinking more strategically around explaining why the data is that way, or what we can do moving forward about that data, or what are you having for lunch? Either way, it can be more strategic questions like that. So I think that's something we're really excited about with some of these analyst use cases.
Yeah, so this agent is now in limited availability today, but QVC had been playing with it for the last month and a half. And their teams, and I'm sure we all experienced this, were able to go from 5 or 6 folks working on a Sunday night or waking up on a Monday morning, going through a number of different reports and views and outputs on performance to one place, going to a prompt-based agent and asking questions, which took 30 hours of work out of the front end of the week. Before I joined Bluecore, I worked for Sears Holdings. Hello, Sears Holdings alum. There's always at least 1 or 2 of you in the audience, although I am getting older, and so Sears has been gone longer, and maybe we don't have any. Raise your hand. Anybody? Anybody? Yes, 1, 2. So I'm still not a liar. That's great. I will tell you that when we did our weekly business reviews, it was so frustrating. All we wanted to do as channel owners was to try to make this week better than last week. But by the time we understood what the hell happened last week, there was no more time to take action this week. And it was not just frustrating to me as an owner of owned channels, it was really frustrating to my boss. So I think this one's super exciting. Let me ask you a question, Jordan. So if your CFO sees 30 hours saved a week, which is essentially a full-time equivalent, if you see it as a leader, like, what's your reaction? What are you going to go do with the 30 hours?
Maybe take a break, or no, I'm kidding. I think you can fill that time with more strategic things. I think if you're just getting your whole team just pulling data every Monday or whenever you do your business reviews, it's kind of a waste of time. You're bringing in these people who are, thinking strategically, and they have all these talents, and they're just spent formatting a deck. So allowing a team to do that, we'll focus on really the actions. What are we doing with that data? What is it now why is engagement down? We can focus on looking at broader trends or something like that, or actions to turn around that data.
So the Budget Lab, which is part of Yale University, just came out with a study. They're looking at how jobs and employment are impacted as AI becomes more highly utilized in businesses. What they're seeing, or what the recent report from January is that the individuals or associates that use these tools aren't actually doing less. They're actually doing more. They're digging into passion projects. They're staying later and solving real problems. So I would just say one thing. For anyone in this room who sees a statistic like that, a tool saved me an FTE, the last thing you should think is cutting that full-time equivalent.
For sure.
That's the last thing you should think about. It's how do you leverage that free time to be more meaningful work. An example of that would be our second use case. So QVC sends thousands and thousands of campaigns on a monthly basis. We heard Brian speak earlier this morning. Oftentimes, the team wants to review the outcomes of that work. How did the campaigns I ran work? The challenge is that they can only work or look at the top 5 campaigns. You simply don't have time to ask your team to look at every message that was sent from the business, whether it's an email or an SMS, and tell me how did it perform from an engagement and a revenue perspective. Tell me what those messages have in common, and then based on the insight, what do I build next? You just can't push through all that data. QVC is now leveraging the marketing agent to do that work. In this example, they were able to ask the agent, I'm going to look at every email we send over a set period of time. I want you to categorize email subject lines into themes. Then I want you to show me the engagement rates and revenue rates from those themes. And then I want you to recommend new subject lines for me to go use. So again, the things that we can do as experimentation would be a great example of how we can use that free time.
Very true.
All right, what else, Jordan? Any other ideas on things that this agent could be used to help us with intentionally?
Yeah, I think we've all been here. If you haven't, I envy you. I really do. You'll be sat in a meeting or whatever. Monday morning, you get in. Email goes out 9 o'clock, 9:02. You'll get an email from a leadership saying, "Why did I receive this email?" Or "Why is this my product recommendation?" And nothing gets you going on a Monday morning like an email from your CEO asking this. So I think what's helpful here is typically this is a request that seems very simple on the surface, but if you had your analyst or someone in your team pulling this could be multiple data pulls or investigation over a number of hours, whereas now an agent can just help casually answer this, where you can answer it in seconds. You can even be sat in a meeting and answer it. It becomes really powerful. And you can also then start preempting some of these questions, so you can prompt the agent to answer these questions preemptively. So some of those fire drill questions you get, you can just preempt those and ask that and have the answers pre-ready for when they come up. So I think a lot of the problem is not necessarily the answer, but turning around the answer quick enough for executives is sometimes a barrier to get.
Yeah, I think what's super interesting when you think about implementing these tools is change management about how questions get answered in the first place. Meaning, as Jordan said, I'm sure most of us in this room have gotten an email like this. The idea is that the tool is made available not just to you and your teams, but to leadership as well. Like, there is no reason that leadership shouldn't go ask the agent these questions directly and then come back with no offense to anyone, more intelligent questions, right? There's other better things to ask that could take more time. For example,
I wouldn't say this is a more intelligent thing to ask, but this is another common question you get. You're sat in a strategy meeting and out of left field, some executive asks a really hyper-specific question, really obscure, that again requires a team to go and pull the answers to. It's never a quarter, it's never a month, it's particular weeks, so it's always a really specific one. So being able to pull this data really quickly is important. And the next one we have is around inventory. I think excess inventory always becomes a marketing opportunity at some point. So I think as well, no one gets into marketing thinking I want to build audiences. They want to focus on campaigns, creative, etc. So being able to automate the building of audiences becomes a really powerful tool on how to action on some of those insights. Typically, this would be a spray and pray approach, where you would send it to everyone or a less personalized segment, but using this agent, it can help you find a more personalized, relevant audience who would resonate with this while protecting margin and all that good stuff without having to give something away.
So where do we think this is going? I think that as we wrap up here, from a technology provider perspective, we're super excited at Bluecore to be able to offer a variety of different capabilities to help save time and create better shopping experiences. So whether we're talking about shopping agents, which I'm sure we're all using now, whether you're using Bluecore's agent Albie, or you spend time on Amazon and you engage with Rufus, whether you're looking at tools that help you make merchandising decisions from a catalog perspective, whether you're orchestrating multi-channels or communications and journeys for shoppers. Like, we're excited to turn all of that stuff on for our customers. Jordan, what kind of changes do you see happening on the retail or enterprise side?
Yeah, for me, I think it's two things. I think you touched on it perfectly there, which is the capabilities, I think, is the first thing. Being able to not just automate, we've talked a lot about the analyst kind of side of it, but being able to take that and bring the action there as well, I think is very important. So whether that's using some of the insights from Bluecore around connecting the real-time data and the catalog awareness, I think then becomes really powerful when all of that meets in the middle. And then the second, you also touched on it earlier, around getting other teams involved. A lot of this data is useful to help other teams drive their business a bit differently, as well as if they do have questions, rather than asking my team, they can ask the agent. We can have the agent automate some of those obscure questions that would take a while. And I think then there's a lot of power, because it then frees up my team to do more and gives the other cross-functional teams a different view into the business. And as these agents expand, I'm sure there'll be more data thrown into it, and then more teams can access it further from there, and then you're making enterprise-wide decisions versus in silos, which I think becomes quite powerful.
That's great. So just to wrap up and conclude, I think customer data, real-time behaviors, catalog awareness, all of these things allow you to leverage tools that can answer questions that your teams are spending incredibly valuable time on. And I think if you use these things correctly and really lean into them, we have the opportunity to get a ton more out of our people, which I think is really, when I heard the panels talking about it earlier, I'm just going to say I don't think AI is taking our jobs. I think AI will make us better at our jobs. And for everybody who leads a team, it's your job to set the stage to allow that to happen. So, Jordan, thank you very much for subbing at the last minute. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, yeah.
Everybody, thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the rest of the day.